Late agenda today. Late agenda today.
First glance, it didn't even look like Troy up there when you looked at him.
Good morning. I'm going to call our county board meeting to order. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Also, if you could please join us for just a moment of silence to recognize Pope County Deputy Josh Owen, who lost his life this past weekend while he was serving his community. If you could please just join us for that. All right, thank you. Beth, could you please do the roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen?
Can you please
Commis-
mark it on excused?
Yep. Commissioner Heinen?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Kapinski?
Here.
Commissioner Pop?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, to approve or amend the agenda, Monty?
So, Mr. Chair, the first thing is a presentation by next chair. We'd like to add, if you could please insert that as the second item under county administrator after the retirement award. And then, right after that, I'd like to add an update by Jeff on the Mississippi River cleanup activities.
Okay.
And then lastly, some information from our county assessor, Brian Folden, on multifamily valuation issues. If we could please add that, let's do that right before commissioner meeting updates, So Assessor Brian Folden on multifamily valuation issues.
Okay, anything else from you, Monty?
That's it.
Okay, I would like to add, if I could add, please add the sheriff, Troy Heck, right to the beginning of our agenda here today, and actually I'd like to do that immediately if we could.
Of course,
So,
of course.
Can I get a motion and a second though? to
So
approve?
move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All right, motion and a second to approve our agenda, amended agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, is carried. Sheriff, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Just like to take a moment today to first thank the county board for the moment of silence and recognizing the life and sacrifice of Deputy Josh Owen. Tragic events like what occurred over the weekend remind us all too starkly that we live in a world that's polluted by chaos and violence. While that is definitely hard to come to grips with and causes us to mourn, I think it also reminds us of how thankful all of us are, and especially myself, for the folks that every day represent the thin blue line in every phase of law enforcement out there, and every day face the challenges presented by the chaos and violence in this world, and every day stand between this chaos and violence to preserve the peace for all the rest of us who wish to live our lives in peace and harmony. Thank you for the moment of silence. Thank you to Deputy Owen for his ultimate sacrifice. Thank you to all those who continue to carry on and preserve what he sacrificed himself for. And to all those who are my brothers and sisters in the thin blue line, I say honor the sacrifice and life of Deputy Owen and continue to push forward with our calling. And to Deputy Owen's family, I wish to express thanks for his ultimate sacrifice, and rest assured he will never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff, for those comments. I see our chief deputy's here too. Did you have anything you wanted to add? Or?
No,
Okay.
you did a great job covering it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again, Sheriff. And thank you, gentlemen, for your service too.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Yep, thank you.
All right, county board meetings are broadcasted live and video recorded on YouTube. Please refrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. board observes Robert's Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment or public hearings. However, public comment on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today, please turn off your cell phones or put them on vibrate. Open forum, is there anyone here that would like to speak today? All right, thank you. Move on to our first order of business consent agenda, items 1 through 11. Your wishes.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Okay, now you can go.
Commissioner Schlangen?
Can I hold number 11?
Okay. Can you send that motion, Commissioner Kapinski, and pull 11?
I will move for items 1 through 10.
Okay,
Second.
okay with you? All right, all those in favor of consent agenda items 1 through 10? All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Item 11, Commissioner Schlangen.
That's dealing with the Humane Society contract. And I just had a question about the process. It looks like they have like 5 days, and then they can euthanize. I was just wondering, is anybody here from there at that?
Tri-County?
Tri-County or not?
I don't believe so, no.
Probably not.
No.
Maybe Neil could answer your question.
Yeah, maybe somebody from the sheriff's department.
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
When an animal is found and, let's say, well, I have an example of the owner wasn't able to pay the fees right away. And, I'm just wondering how fast they do the euthanasia, or instead of trying to get them back to that, person that would love to have their dog back, but really can't pay everything up front. But if they could have a payment fee, or do you know how that works?
What we will do in cases like this is we will work with the Tri-County Humane Society and also the owner, when that owner is located, to reconcile whatever is need to be done to get that animal back in the hands of the owner. Whether it makes, whether we need to do some type of a payment plan or make other arrangements, but we'll definitely make every effort to get that animal back to its owner.
Yeah, 'cause I believe I had a niece that, she's had problems in her life, and she has the dogs to keep her company, and, she wasn't able to pay back the fee, and the dog was euthanized, and it was devastating for her.
I understand. Devastating for any pet owner. Any other questions?
Yep, that was it. Just, I wanted to make sure you try to work with them to make sure that they can get reunited, or,
We will definitely do that.
okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a note that it does say in there that it's a minimum of 5 days, not a maximum.
Correct.
So it's, they do have plenty of time.
Yeah, that's
if
if they can't
seem-
find the person, but,
Yeah.
and then they do try to adopt, right? Do you know the percentages of what get adopted and what have to be euthanized?
That I do not know.
Did you get bills for euthanization, or?
We haven't yet. Fortunately, in the circumstances when we've had to utilize the Tri-County Humane Society, we've always been able to eventually locate the owner, so we haven't had to go down that road.
I know when they've come in, they send, it's real high percentage that they don't have to do that.
All right,
Yep,
you want to move approval?
move approval.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve consent agenda item number 11. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, it's carried. Bob probably, I was gonna say Monty, but this is probably in Bob's arena. Good morning.
Good morning. We're here to celebrate Peggy Kaselniak's retirement. A couple things. First of all, she's been here 19 years. I've been here a little over 10 years, and during that period of time, our human services budget has always been in the black, never once in the red. That's a testimony of how well she's done in managing that budget It's a $15 million budget, so it's not easy work. Some of the other things is that I've noticed over the course of time how well she works with the new supervisors to make sure that they understand their units and how their budget impacts the supervision that they do, and how anybody, anytime can come by and ask Peggy any questions about anything in the budget, and she'll give them the answers. It's gonna be tough to see her go, and as we found out, it's gonna be real hard to replace her as well. We're still looking for an applicant to take over for her, so it's a situation where Peggy's earned it. She's done a good job all these years, and hats off to Peggy.
Thank you.
So you have to make a presentation of the board chair and a photo.
Come on up to the front, Peggy.
Is that chair warm?
Oh, sorry, Bob.
I'm gonna take this out. 'Cause I want-
Great job, Peggy.
I was kinda hoping she'd have a speech prepared.
Oh.
Peggy,
Are you
You don't mean to unwrap your gifts?
No, not really.
Peggy, is this effective next year at this time?
And or
Effective
until,
next year?
Pretty quick.
and or until the position is filled.
Congratulations, Peggy. It's my honor to present this to you. I'm sorry to open your gift, but I really wanted you to see what it was you were getting. And if I could just read it for you. Retirement award presented to Peggy Koscielniak in appreciation for 19 years of loyal and distinguished service to Benton County. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Could I get, have you guys stand right up here? I'll take this, yeah, one more, please. I'm just gonna take one more gift card. You gotta stand up there.
You want us up or down?
Maybe up on the
Maybe up,
step,
okay.
please.
We're the same height.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I have to say, that's probably one of the funner parts about being the board chair. If funner is a word.
Yeah.
All right.
More fun.
More fun,
More
thank you.
fun,
That's one of
yeah.
the more fun things I get to do, yeah. All right, Monty,
I'll say it on the next here.
move it over to Brittany then, right away, okay.
Brittany, do you want me to pull up that presentation? I didn't wanna.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Yep.
Okay, I think we can see everything now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us. You know, it's been a couple months since the first time that I came presented this project to you, so I'm happy to see you all again in person and continuing to be in person to give you updates. So, a lot of these items haven't changed all that much, but there are a few additions that I wanted to go through today. So we are here to talk about the Benton Solar Project. First slide, not much has changed here. So we're still looking at a 100 megawatt project. Again, powers up to 37,500 homes, so big utility scale project located in Minden Township. So the first time we talked, there was the larger boundary, which had Minden and St. George. Since then, we've really combined it down to just Minden Township. We did present to Minden Township in February and then again to St. George in March, just to keep them apprised of what was going on, answer their questions, making sure that they had my contact info in case anything arose that they needed, clarification on. We're still planning to interconnect into Great River Energy's Benton County 115 kV substation right north of Territory Golf Club. And we are working with Great River Energy on the best route for that transmission line. And just as a reminder, that transmission line will be those poles above ground. Our commercial operation date is still aiming to be 2026, mid-year, based on the weather. This is something I wanted to show you. So the yellow lines here, and I screenshotted it, it might be a little blurry on the the right, but this is our project boundary. This is solely in Minden Township. This is as final of the boundary we know it is today. That green line that you see on the bottom left-hand corner is our proposed transmission line that is solely on Great River Energy's property. So they are the one and only landowner we will be working on with this. We are currently in communication with them on what their, northern reliability project, and kind of making sure that we're both aligned with what we are both doing so that we're both successful. So we have been in contact with those appropriate people to make sure that our project fits within their plans as well. This is as much information that is final to date. So I did want to just communicate with you as much information that we know to make sure that we're being transparent with you all as the county board. Current project timeline hasn't changed all that much, but I did add some dates in here. So right now, our main focus for the project is working on the permit application. So as we know in Minnesota, there's a very lengthy Public Utilities Commission process with these large projects. And so our goal is to submit the draft application of that by the end of May. So May 24th is currently what the schedule is populating. Give or take, it'll be, around the end of May. We'll then get some comments back from them and, adjust things as needed, with a final application being submitted mid-July. So once it's submitted in mid-July, that's when it goes public and it's on the docket and it's on the website, et cetera. So between now and July, we will be in communication a lot. I want to make sure that whatever we are submitting with the state, you all are aware of, and it's nothing will come as a surprise. So that's one of our goals, is just to make sure you see what we are presenting with the state so you're well aware. Not only just because that's important to us, I think I've said from the beginning, making sure you're walking hand in hand with us on this is something that I want to strive to do. Surveys and studies, things have been going great from an environmental perspective. We are wrapping up and finalizing some of our things, such as like vegetation management plan. Civil and electrical engineering is a big push right now. So what I mean by that is we have a pretty good idea of where the panels may be going right now based on the landowners that have signed up in the project. But right now we're working on those connectivity easements. How are we going to bring the power from the panels to the collector substation? So that entails a lot of different surveys and studies and making sure that we're signing up landowners to host those underground collection lines. Stakeholder outreach is going great. Continuing to meet with you all, township board meetings as well. We did send out agency outreach letters last week. So I know Roxanne has received that. Chair Johnson, I sent one to you. And that's really just a matter of that map that I showed you before of here's the boundary, here's what this project is doing, here's what's coming to the county. Nothing should have been new from a perspective of those that we've talked with. Community support efforts, we are still ongoing with lots of sponsorships and donations and landowner dinners. We are presenting and hosting the Foley Chamber meeting this Thursday on the 20th. So we're hosting all the members that are interested to hear about the project and providing lunch. And then we are also working to be a part of the July meeting with Amanda at the Benton Economic Partnership. So hosting that in July as well. And we are members of that partnership, so excited to take advantage of those benefits. And of course, our landowner dinners, we do like to host locally, of course, so the Coyote Moon Grill has been wonderful to work with. So what's next? This is probably the newest slide in the deck, but first off, what we plan to do is present the site plan to you all before we finally submit it, right? So keeping you in lock and step and being able to have your eyes on it before we submit to the state is one of our next steps. So that will be probably between May and July that will happen. And happy to do it in a meeting like this or set up a separate meeting different than these Tuesdays. The next thing is to work with you all on conditional use permits for things such as the laydown yard and the collector substation. So that'll happen after we submit the final application. And we'll have 16 to 18 months to wrap some of these things up based on the permitting schedule in Minnesota. And then the next thing we would work on after that submission of that application is what we call a development agreement, road use agreement. So a couple bullets on what that actually means. So we as a company will deploy surveys and studies such as aerial will fly the roads as well as geotech on the roads to evaluate the road feasibility for withstanding equipment weight and usage. So those trucks that are bringing in panels, things like that. We would propose changes to specific areas. For example, here are some roads that need to be widened, here are some roads that need to be improved, or where we need to add something like a turning radius to get a large truck, appropriately on the road. That's one piece of this agreement that we would be taking care of. The second piece is calculations will be done to determine the cost of maintaining these roads during construction and operation. So essentially, what is that wear and tear that this project will bring to the roads? And what is that cost associated with it? And that is a number that would be put into the development agreement that we would pay upfront to the county to make sure that it's all on our dime, to make sure that we're taking care of the roads that we're going to be using for the project. So that's a very lengthy process, months-long process for us to deploy those surveys and studies, as well as to do those calculations and do the evaluations, as well as figure out what routes are we planning to actually use. And that will come, of course, after the site plan is finalized, because we can't determine which roads we're going to use until we have a final layout of where the panels are going, where the infrastructure is going. So I'll pause there to see if there's any questions, because this is my last slide, and I wanted to just let you all know that that is what's on our next items to work with you all on.
Mr. Heinen?
Mr. Chair, thank you. So when you're talking about the cost of wear and tear of the road and or the roads, will you be working with our county engineer? And
Yes.
then Roxanne too then?
Yep.
With all of this?
Yes,
Okay, that was
Very
my
much.
only question.
very much.
Brittany, one question. First time I've seen the possibility of CUPs, and you probably had a discussion with Roxanne, but that would happen at our planning commission, not the county board, so
Okay.
that would be another step process for you?
Yep, that's okay. Yep.
Perfect, thank you. Any other questions for Brittany?
I have a
Anything else?
question.
Commissioner Schlangen?
With the transmission site,
Mm-hmm.
is it going to be underground or overground to go to where the main line that they're trying to work through the area?
So our
The power.
transmission line, that green line that was shown, would be overhead.
Okay.
Yep, and that will go into the same substation that they are going to currently upgrade. And so we've been working with them on their timeline and things like that, but yes, that will go into that same point of interconnection, we call it, the POI. That's how you connect into the grid.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Pop?
is that substation the one they're gonna, upgrade when they're coming from the north?
Yes,
Okay,
because that substation has different voltages,
Yeah.
230, 345, 115. They're focused right now on the 230 and 345, but we are using the 115, so that lower voltage one.
Okay.
But yes, that POI, point of interconnection, has those lines that go north, and those are their main focus points, I believe. And ours will come in through the west.
okay.
So that's why that green line
Yep.
went, a little swiveled into the west there.
I didn't realize that you were tying into the same thing.
That's the substation right there?
Yep, right where this little pin is.
Okay.
Right, any other questions for Brittany? Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Brittany.
Appreciate the upfront.
Yep, we do.
Thank you for having us.
Have a great day. All right, we're gonna move on to discuss subleasing office space in the Eastgate complex.
Mr. Chair, I was hoping we could go with,
Jeff.
Well, I'm sorry, yes,
yeah,
thank you, I missed the note.
Jeff has an update for a couple of issues on the Mississippi River cleanup. I believe we were talking about a dumpster there and the scouts doing some cleanup.
Morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
Jeff.
So yeah, as our last board meeting, then, there was discussion about, getting pricing on a dumpster and getting the scouts to, do some cleanup over there. I had a conversation with, Patrick Howard, who is the, scoutmaster for Sauk Rapids, and, they would be more than happy to come out and help. They would like to see it done on May 7th, if that will work. I told them that, as far as bags go, I would provide them with the bags and, depending what we do with the dumpster, if we don't leave a dumpster out there, I'll have them stack them up somewhere and I'll get rid of the garbage once it's all bagged up later on. As far as dumpster costs, depending on size, I had these quotes drawn up and I had them put it as far as, location at Benton in the river. I know there was some discussion about having it somewhere else where that would be on camera or something. I don't know that that's gonna make a huge difference as far as the quote price goes, but, for a 12-yard dumpster, we're roughly looking at, $465. 20-yard dumpster would be, $595. Or a 30-yard dumpster would be $660. And, the one thing they did caution on that is that TVs, tires, electronics and appliances are all gonna be an extra charge on that. So per tire, it's $30. Per TV, it's $45. Electronics, $7, and appliances, $30. So I don't know how, how you guys wanted to look at
Mr. Chair.
monitoring that or whatever, but, it's just something to keep in mind.
Jeff,
The dumpster size, they said, you can always go less as far as filling it, but if it's over like a 12-ton dumpster is 1.25 tons. If you go over that, there's another $150 charge for overage charge, so. Being the first time doing it, I don't have any idea how much stuff's gonna get put out there and what kind of stuff's gonna get put out there, but I'm just presenting you guys with the information that I got, so you can make an informed decision.
Commissioner Heinen.
Jeff, I got a question for you. We got clean sweep week coming up here at the county. I don't remember off the top of my head. Is there any way we could haul the tires and all the other miscellaneous equipment that we would have to pay extra for to the county shop? And then put it in that clean sweep week?
You talking amnesty days?
Amnesty Day, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
Yep, I'm thinking the city of Sauk Rapids, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely can be done. It's gonna be a little tricky if, unless we have someone sitting there that's, getting the stuff as it's going in, otherwise it's gonna be someone crawling in the dumpster and taking the stuff out of the dumpster after it gets thrown in and hauling it out of there.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, if we put signage up there, I know not everybody seems like they can read, but, even if we just put something up there that says, hey, appliances, cause we can take appliances right to Midway and drop them off for free.
Yeah.
In that area, tires could come to our amnesty days. I mean,
Jeff, you had kind of mentioned that, whether or not you'd have the dumpster there first or to show them where to put bags. I mean, do you have a preference or what's your thoughts about if you don't have a dumpster there, then maybe you don't have that stuff mixed? Do you know what I mean? Where they're putting, if you're saying, here's a spot for bags, and then they're gonna leave the appliances and or tires and or electronics right there. It puts some strain on the property management then to put it in the right spot, but it wouldn't be mixed necessarily then.
do you guys have a trailer at all?
Like a dump type trailer, an enclosed, we don't have a.
Not an enclosed, just like, almost like a utility trailer that we could park out there and have them put appliances and tires on that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So, we've had dumpster at our place through the township for, God, I don't know, must be 15 years. They park it at my place, people bring stuff that they clean up on the road, and probably the most amount that you're gonna do is you're gonna double that cost on a 30-yard dumpster. I don't see it worth the time for the property maintenance to go out there and pick through tires and then they will take care of it. I mean, I've talked to the Rice Sportsmans, they don't meet until the first Tuesday of May, if they will sponsor this, or they will, will pay for it or not. I guess from my perspective, if you're gonna pile it up there and you got a skid loader, I got people that bring TVs, they bring dryers, anything that's dumped off in the ditch. And if they can't get it in the dumpster, they dump it in front of the dumpster and I take a skid loader and put it in. But you're correct on, do not overfill. I mean, if you get to a point where it's overfill, they will actually throw some stuff out and let it there till next year. So, that would be, my only concern would be that if it's overfilled, that we have to go and get the stuff instead of let them, because the overfill charge is what really kills you. But, I don't know how many tires, we get a lot of tires. People throw tires off in the ditch, they change tires and they don't wanna pay the $5. I suppose we get 30, 40 tires in that dumpster every year.
But this costs us $30 per tire.
Is it $30 per tire?
Yeah, that's what they got here.
Well, on amnesty days, if I recall, you get 4 free. Address.
I'm trying to understand this. This is all about cleaning up the river, right?
Yeah,
So I'm trying to understand, why are we gonna be getting these appliances? I understand the tire situation, of course, because you do see a lot of them along the riverbanks.
I think people just take advantage of knowing that there's a dumpster there.
Yeah, that's your biggest,
Problem.
I mean,
I don't know that they're gonna find a fridge in the Mississippi, but.
Mr. Chair, I do agree with Commissioner Pop. We'll be tripping over dollars to get the pennies if we put you guys in charge of going and getting the tires and the appliances. We're better off just throwing them all in there and even if it's double the price.
we have a skid loader, right?
We do.
I mean, that might be your, have a designated spot that you're gonna dump it, and then we could get the dumpster after it's over with. If we have a place out there where we could say, this is, put up a sign, this is where the stuff comes, and then go out there with the skid loader and fill the dumpster. That way you're gonna eliminate, overfilling, or maybe we gotta get 2 dumpsters or whatever, so. I don't have a feeling on the sportsmen's, how they're gonna pertain, if they're gonna agree to this or not. I know.
I guess I was kinda thinking a 30-yarder for garbage.
Yeah,
and a
I would-
30-yarder for other stuff.
Yeah. I mean,
And try to sign it like he says, garbage here and appliances, tires, stuff here.
yeah.
And hope people can read. Jeff, what's your preference?
Yeah, what do you wanna do?
I don't know. I'm willing to work with whatever you guys decide, but it's
What's your thoughts?
It's
What would you do?
It's a 1-day cleanup.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a
That's
1-day
one thing
cleanup.
that they did mention, as far as how long, is it, I don't know that there was a set amount of, and it really doesn't matter as far as the quote goes, cause a full dumpster's a full dumpster if it's sitting there for 2 weeks or a day or whatever.
I would not sit there for 2
So,
weeks,
No,
From my experience, when it sits at my place, I could write the name on the cardboard and I can tell you who's bringing personal stuff every year, It's just the way it is. Some people are going to, and some are gonna do what it's meant to do.
I would think 1 weekend would be plenty long if,
Yeah.
at
That's
the
what I would
most or whatever, but, and doing it on that May 7th weekend cause that's a Sunday, when they're gonna be out there would be the most convenient for us, is cause then they can toss everything in there. And then, if there is TVs and stuff that are dropped off, maybe the scouts would help us with rearranging some of that stuff, and if we can take some of that stuff, if it's not buried in there, out to Public Works, I can throw it in the back of our truck and we can get rid of it that way if that's gonna be cheaper to do, but.
So the only day we'd have to worry about is Saturday, cause they they would drop the dumpster off Friday afternoon. So Saturday would be the only
I
realistic
mean,
day
but
we'd.
if we don't, are we gonna go forward even if we don't get the funds from the sportsmen's? We're just gonna,
Yeah, let's do it.
let's just do it? Okay.
Where's the dumpster gonna be at?
Well, I had them quoted as far as Benton the River Park, in the parking lot there. I don't know if we'd wanna use the main one or the one to the south would probably be less congested. There's, on a nice day, the main parking lot over there by Graves House is usually pretty
Yeah,
full.
I think the one to the south.
Yeah.
Thoughts on 2 30-yarders?
2 30-yarders?
Kinda signify one for garbage and one for our miscellaneous. But you don't wanna be short. You don't wanna go out there and find it piled 10 feet up on top, cause I don't know.
You get a lot of garbage in a 30-footer though.
I know you do, but.
I don't know what, we don't know what to expect. I mean.
Well, there's just, $5.95 to $6.60, it's another $65 for a big one.
Yeah, I'd definitely go the big one, whether we need 1 or 2. And you're gonna have people, if you're gonna get appliances, they more than likely can't get them in the dumpster. And don't let them open the back gate and start putting them in, because pretty soon the back gate is here.
Yeah,
Stuff is trailed all the way about 100 feet behind the dumpster.
right.
Well, and, did the scouts mention at all if they'd be interested in having somebody like there monitoring that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I really didn't discuss that with them.
Yeah.
Their part, I was more so asking them about cleaning up
Doing
along
the cleanup, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we can try it, and if we get overwhelmed, we'll know we gotta do something different next year, and if we don't get enough garbage, then we don't do it again.
I guess I would rather be long than short, but that's just my opinion. Do whatever you think.
At the end of the day, I'm kinda like Commissioner Heine, I'm just scratching my head here going, this is a cleanup of a river and
Yeah.
I don't know too many fridges that are floating down the river. And on the side. It's gonna be all personal use, but
You think one dumpster's enough then?
My opinion would be 1 dumpster, but, plenty of signage,
yeah.
plenty of signage.
Actually, if there's one dumpster and they gotta try and lift appliances in there, they may not do it.
Right.
Right.
So consensus for 130-yarder?
Yeah.
130-yarder.
Okay, as far as signage, just to be clear on it, would we want to put on it that we're not accepting any of this stuff or set it off to the side? I mean,
You don't want to ask me that.
I don't think they'll honor not accepting. I think they're gonna set it there.
Yeah.
That's what I think's gonna happen. But if they could set it off the side would be helpful.
Yeah.
okay. All right, sounds good.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Another question.
Yeah.
Did the Boys and Girls Club get a hold of you about the St. Cloud area?
No, they have not. No,
Okay,
I haven't heard anything from them.
Monty, did they contact you? Maybe, I told them about the project and gave them the information, if you wanna give them a call and see if they wanna help down in the St. Cloud area.
Okay, the Boys and Girls Club?
Yep.
St. Cloud?
Yep, just south of the fairgrounds there by the railroad tracks.
Okay.
I got one more question to
Mr.
Jeff,
Mott.
not pertaining to this. Have you been out to Bend in the River?
I have.
How is
Not
that
since
going?
Friday, but everything's going along very well. They're kind of doing the thinning on the south part, and they haven't moved into the north part at all yet, but it's been going great, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
How much of it's done, would you say?
Oh, I would say the very far end of it, where it's the thickest down there, they're getting pretty close. I would think by the end of the week, they'll be done with that part and moving north.
Okay.
So, it'll start being more noticeable pretty soon here.
Does that
'cause-
look nicer when they're done?
I can show you pictures later, but it's looking pretty good in there.
Okay.
From where they thinned it out on that project, I think it looks a lot better once, if you can, once you get in there and get a picture or a view of it, you can kind of see how, thinning this out is gonna, do a lot to sustain the trees that are there and help that, forest stay functional and thrive,
And Forster Bob is monitoring it, right?
Absolutely, yep. He talked to me this morning. He's out there right now, actually.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right, Monty, discuss subleasing office space.
Okay. Well, I have folks here to help with this discussion. As you may of course know, our occupancy of the Eastgate office complex has been reduced dramatically. First, of course, we opened in January of 2020, and then the pandemic struck, and essentially that facility was mostly closed, and a lot of folks are working from home. Since then, of course, we've moved to a very different delivery model where we have a large number of employees that are working remotely, and we're not seeing as many people in person as we used to, far fewer in person. So those elements combined, we simply don't have the same need for Eastgate that we once did back in 2020. Human Services would like to consolidate the folks that remain in Eastgate into what we call the 451 suite. And that's the same building, that's the larger of the two buildings where you have Planned Parenthood's in that corner office, so that kind of get your bearings there. It would be consolidate those that remain into 451, leaving 425 vacant. 425 is the smallest suite. It's in a large building, two-story building. It's on the corner of East St. Germain there. And the landowner, Bob Abel, has offered to his assistants to assist us with subleasing the 425 suite. It's 1,700 square feet. The annual lease cost currently is about almost 32,000 is the current annual lease. That includes, that's the basic lease, and what they call CAM, the Common Area Maintenance Cost. I believe that's what that term stands for. So again, he's offered his assistance to sublease. Our lease currently runs to the end of next year. We had a 5-year lease initially. So that is the ask of this morning, if we want to seek your permission to allow Mr. Abel then to sublease the 425 suite.
What does that offer?
Questions?
What does that offer include for are we gonna do this just to be a nice guy, or is this gonna cost us something? The offer to sublease it?
I'm not sure what his motives are. I'm sure he'd love to keep a tenant in
No,
there long term.
I'm not necessarily saying his motives. Is there a cost to him providing the ability to sublease to
I'm
us?
not aware of any costs, no.
So he's just willing to help us do that.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Members,
Mr.
any
Chair?
questions? Commissioner Heinen?
Yeah, I think we should hear from Human Services about the rationality between the small suite and the big suite.
What we decided to do is, first of all, we have the two sites, and we pay for the rest of the, until the end of next year. So it made sense for us to not have people in both locations. One of the reasons why 451 was empty anyway was, as Monty said, we're just simply not seeing as many people. They changed the process to allow for more phone contact and more technology. So it allowed us to bring our people back, our financial unit back. And one of the things we've struggled with is whenever you have a satellite location, it does make it tougher for communication, especially when you have half of them there, half of them here. It might be better if it was a completely different unit where it wasn't dependent on communication between the two units. But in this case, the best laid plans 3 or 4 years ago are just not feasible now. So we brought that group back. We still do have our parts of our adult services unit over there, our min choice assessors. They will be over there. And their sole objective is outreach and doing assessments. So it makes sense for them to stay there. So we moved the people into 451. That will be probably about 10 people, give or take. And it is better suited for what we want to use it for. We had a discussion yesterday at our management meeting, and what we discussed was, well, how is it being used otherwise? And I was actually quite surprised that we are using it quite a bit. And the idea is that people are, when they have multiple appointments in St. Cloud, they're stopping in to make copies, they're stopping in to meet people. We have regular people meeting in our conference room and in our smaller rooms with customers over there. And we're struggling with a way to measure how many people are in there, but we came across an idea yesterday to simply count the scans, the badge scans into the building and so forth. So that's gonna tell us how much traffic. So we anecdotally, we have a lot of usage that I didn't think we had, but we do. But I think going forward, we're gonna be able to give you just about specific numbers of how many badge scans that we have, and we can just simply take away the people that are stationed over there, and then we can tell how much that is being used. Because the thing that I didn't think of was people were just stopping in for short periods of time to make copies or to check their emails and things like that. So it is being used. So I think the idea, I think we do have to look at maybe past this point in time, having some sort of a satellite for just simply having people stop there to make their transactions versus coming to Foley. But it can be a small location. So I don't want to dismiss the fact that we don't have any need for St. Cloud once the other plan is in effect. So I think from that perspective, right now, it's coming in useful, and we're using it more than I thought we were, but we'll give you further numbers.
Bob, how many people would fit into 425 than the one that you want to sublease? How many people is that?
About 10, I believe.
So the 10 people you want to keep in 451 would not work. And what I'm getting at is that, at $32,000 a year for the 425 suite, that means we're spending $130,000 plus at.
Current lease on 451 is 93,000 a year.
So basically 3 times the money on the one that you want to keep. I guess what I'm asking is if you can get 10 into 425, besides the fact that they're stopping in to check emails or make copies, what would be the reason for not doing it the other way?
Yeah, and I think the idea behind that is that we have a conference room in there, and I suppose we have to, what I want to do is we have 12 cubes there, and we have 5 or 6 other offices there, and then we have a conference room. So it allows us to be able to have an opportunity for 10 more people, say, to be able to come in and work there for a couple hours or so. So I can't give you specifics on what that looks like now, but I know that we have a handwritten calendar that people are signing up with, and I'm not really into handwritten paper calendars, so I think we're gonna do a better job of looking at how we're going to address that going forward, but the idea. Go ahead, if you wanna.
Well, if I may, I would just add, I do office over there part-time. And the other thing that we do that isn't, the smaller office is not useful for, is bringing clients in. So we do have clients, we meet with our homeless outreach, we meet with families to do some visitation over there. And if you've ever been in, if you remember the small office, it's not a place we could do that at all. It wouldn't be safe. There's no security. It's a tiny little lunchroom we'd have to utilize. It really would not be useful for what we are using it for. And our homeless outreach officer or worker does use it quite a bit. So I just add there's a safety element in there, and we do still have some public. We don't have the financial appointments, or the doors aren't unlocked, but we have appointments there with social work clients. If that helps.
It does. If I can just keep going, please. If my concern is that at some point, if we decide to go with the future plans we're talking about, we're gonna have to wean out of that big suite and get back here or somewhere else. And so I don't wanna be in a position that becomes our long-term satellite over there for $95,000 a year, because
We
I'm
don't
not
either.
interested in that. So.
Yeah, I think the whole idea is that we have to actually determine how much it is being utilized right now. That was the whole idea behind going to St. Cloud in the first place, is that we have a lot of our customers that don't have rides here and so forth, and it's just a lot more convenient to our customers. And I think that what we have to do is give you guys some data on what it looks like, how that would be used and so forth. And at the end of the day, if we choose not to, that's fine too. The thing is that I provide information to the board to say, this is something that we need, this is how much we're gonna use it, this is how much it's gonna save for people coming back and forth and so forth. And at that point in time, it's just a decision based on data.
Okay, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that, Bob. I asked Sandy yesterday to make sure we get all of this data. Let's have this data, I would like to have this data for, I believe, May 4th. We have our Human Services Quarterly meeting. I'm not sure if it's May 4th. I think it is.
I don't think we're gonna be able to get you any usable data other than, I think what you have to do is we're going to start looking at badge scannings and things like that. But I think until you start from a zero basis.
Can you give me a better idea, is it May 4th, Beth? May 1st?
May 1st.
It's May 1st, yes.
Okay, May 1st, could you give me a better idea of what kind of space you need? I am working on some things right now.
Yes. If we were to entertain the idea of cohabitation, that would be something that we could look at as well. I think it's not that we need the entire thing fully and completely, it's that the other one doesn't work, and this one doesn't work as well, and this one does work, and it meets our needs, but is it more than we need? Probably.
So I actually do stop in at 425 quite often, and there's usually only 4 or 5 people in that office that I see, and that gets real tight. I mean, it's very, very small. Yeah, it's very small.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm struggling right now because I gotta be honest with you, I'm hearing that you're surprised that it's being used as much as it is. And I'm going, okay, we're looking at about $150,000 a year in costs to the county, and we don't really have any data backing up how much is being used. And we're in the middle of trying to figure out what we're gonna do with a new building potentially and stuff like that. So I'm sitting here going, these are big crapshoots in my opinion.
Well, if I were to speak my mind, I would say that I don't see that there's a whole lot of incentive for those to find people to come in and move into those if the county's already paying that. So I think it's a situation where he could actually, I want to be careful here. I think the idea is that we are paying for rent for another year and a half, and we have no expectations that it's going to go any further than that. And a lot of those suites have been sitting open for a long time. So whether or not, I maybe would be a situation where if we couldn't find a cohabitator, then at that point in time, maybe we do say, well, if you wanna rent out this spot, and, I'm missing the word, but that's what.
Sublease.
Sublease, yes. If you wanted to sublease either one of them, that'd be fine, and we'd have a 2-month or 3-month period of time to move out. I'd be okay with that. I just don't think that they're gonna be subleased as easy as, they got a payer that's stable and so forth, so. I don't see that they're gonna.
Mr. Chair. We're back to the same conversation we had when we started looking at this, that
Yeah.
these have sat empty for a long, long time.
Yes.
And now when we think somebody's gonna come along and sublease that, I think that's probably a pipe dream.
Yeah.
However, yeah, if.
It might, I mean, but we know where we were 5 years ago.
I think, I think if the board's conclusion was that you wanted to look at subleasing both of them, and somebody came along and wanted to sublease, we would just do what we need to do. So I think maybe that's a happy medium, is to say, we'll continue to use it as is.
Yeah.
And
That's a discussion we'll have to have down the road, because I'm not willing to go back to paying windshield time for people to go back and forth like we were before. We had them numbers presented to us, and I'm truthfully not willing to go back to that point probably ever, because that's where, 80% of our clients are on that side of the county, and we need a presence there no matter what we do here. I will stick to that forever, because we've been down that road and we've done that.
Well, and that may very well be, but I'd like to see that current data that.
Yeah,
actually
and
would be- that
and
there
we
actually
need,
would
we
be-
need 3 to 6 months,
But
right?
that there actually would be windshield time like that still today and what they're functioning. That's what I'd like to see.
And I would say that we don't have current data.
Yeah, we don't have the
We
data,
have
but
speculative data that we will turn into current in the future. We will start charting this. It's a situation where, all this has happened in the last month or so that we've decided to do this. So we do have some preliminary data as far as written calendars. And we can actually get the scanned badges. So we do have that. It's just, I don't know how meaningful it'll be, because we didn't purposely set out to mark that data as usable. So, but we probably still could use it. We might.
Mr. Chair, so what do we need? 3 to 6 months of data?
Well, I would say that every month we could provide you an
Okay.
update as far
Yeah.
as.
So we go
how much-
1 month and then 2 months and see where we're at.
Yep.
Okay.
Did I hear you correctly, Bob, that one potential option is to sublease the whole works?
Well, I'm throwing that out there, is that if, we would probably be willing to do that if the
And then
board
we would
says.
be a cohabitator into the subleaser.
Oh, I see. I don't know anything about that piece. I know that others might have something cooking that I don't necessarily know about. But I think that we have had talk about whether we're gonna share that with either the police department or some other entities on a minor level, so.
Well, and this may be a different discussion at a cow, but
Yeah.
members can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that this board made the decision, regardless of what we do with space needs, that with the exception of a very small satellite in St. Cloud, we're leaving there. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that decision was made. So we better start preparing ourselves for an exit plan, regardless of what happens over here.
Well, we're
Now, if
planning
that
on
needs to
vacating
change
that.
again, that's fine, but to my knowledge, that was the leaning of the board's decision, that we are leaving, with the exception of a small satellite office there potentially. And to me, the small satellite office is not Suite 451.
I don't think we've ever pretended that we want to, I don't think that that's the best place either. I think it's a situation where we must look at, and I think that we've talked about even one of the schools, or there's other entities in St. Cloud that we can take a little corner of their office space to do this. I'm just saying that we need something in St. Cloud. And to sign up for another X amount of years with where we're at, I don't know if there's an appetite for anybody to do that. So, but I do think that we need a footprint somewhere, and if we cohabitate with a school or something like that, that would be good.
Ms. Shiner?
I can give you guys an update May 1st, okay, when we're doing our human services meeting.
Sounds good. Anything else on the sublease?
I got
Commissioner
one.
Kapinski?
How are you talk about scanning in and scanning out. Do they gotta scan in, a card in to get into that facility? Okay. All right. Well, then we should be able to use data going
Yeah.
back
Yes,
all the way.
yes.
We just gotta retrieve the data.
Would it be
Yeah, the
fair?
problem is it's a different group of people are in the building now. That's the piece, is we pulled the financial people out. We don't know how much traffic is with, letting people in or people going out on lunch break. If we, going forward, what we just need to do is isolate those people that work there all the time, pull them out, and then anything else is extra traffic. But before, we had people going between buildings and we had people, it's gonna be usable, but I just don't know if it's gonna be clearly usable.
I'm assuming you're looking at potential action on this today, but I'm wondering is if it's appropriate to move it forward to our May 2nd meeting after we've had the cow on the 1st and act on it then? Because you're gonna have more information.
Right.
And he's got an update supposedly.
In my opinion, I don't think it's gonna sublease anyway.
It's not, yeah,
So then do you wanna make a decision?
just make a
sublease it?
decision
Just
now.
make a decision and it should come back in front of the board again to approve that anyway, right?
I would assume so.
If there's gonna be, yeah,
If
sublease.
we approve the sublease, then it should come back in front of the board if all of a sudden he has a taker for it.
And are you suggesting the sublease of the 425 suite only then?
I would say at this point,
That's been
yes.
presented?
Yes,
It's
Yes.
vacant now.
We've heard from Sandy.
It's vacant now.
it's, yeah, so,
Okay.
425 is vacant now.
All right, Jeff, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna mention about, the door access and stuff. I provide Ken Plenty with, a monthly report of all transactions through them doors, so.
Okay, so you just gotta put it together.
Information's around.
Yep, okay, perfect. Thank
Great.
you. So that's.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. To move forward on subleasing the 425 suite as presented?
As presented, but before anything's finalized, it's gotta come back in front of the board if there is a subleaser.
All right,
second.
in a second, any other discussion on subleasing the 425 suite? Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Bob and Sandy. Mr. Lloydolt, how you doing today?
Doing excellent. How about yourselves?
Excellent.
Good. All right, we got Resolution Central here. A number of resolutions to consider. Mr. Chair, you were at the bid opening with us on April 7th. We opened for all our construction projects that are happening this summer. I am pleased to say they came in, I think, very good. And so part of that is to consider adopting a resolution to award a construction contract to Knife River, which is the lowest responsible bidder, and then authorize the board chair to sign the construction contract when ready for signature. So I also provided you with the abstract. You can see kind of all the items, there's quite a few, and the total cost for every project that's along there. That's usually not public information until, essentially we award the construction contract, so that's why it wasn't originally in your bid packet, so.
All right, any questions
So-
for Mark?
So Mark, so how much money underneath the engineer's estimate did this come into? Let's see.
1.2, or, it's 2.2
Two
million.
point two, that's what I thought. So are we gonna get any half cent sales tax back into
Yeah,
our
so-
account?
Yes, we will have a positive balance we're projecting by the end of the year, so of local option sales tax. So as a result of, the savings, different projects in the 5-year plans had different funding associated with them. And so we broke those out, and so, local option sales tax in terms of cash flow, we should have the money. It'd be fine, the only one was state aid, but we knew that going in either way, we were gonna have to consider advancing state aid, which is the next resolution to consider.
Mr. Pop?
So I think where Commissioner Heinen's going is that since we're under the estimated, engineer's estimate, are we gonna not deplete our sales tax fund? Cause we have a a set of rules where we dedicated so much to this and so much to that.
Yeah, and I think that the total was, 34 million on the original resolution that was adopted by the board with local option sales tax. I think we're somewhere near, I think with this is what, somewhere around 9 million, and then the projects that we've spent, so I don't know if, I think maybe we're close to 15 million total. I can't remember what we've spent in the past, I'd have to look it up, if that's what you're asking, or?
No, I'm looking more for a balance. You know, at one point, we discussed that we were gonna exhaust our local option sales tax. And I'm wondering, because the bids came in less than anticipated, if we're gonna kind of pull back and not exhaust that out at the current level?
Yeah, originally, I think a while ago, based upon our engineer's estimate, we were planning on being, if you look at just local option sales tax only, we were
Right.
gonna be kind of in the red, but our fund would have been able to still support it. But yeah, correct, right now, we're projected, we're not gonna exhaust, we're gonna have excess, we're gonna have a balance at the end of the year, of local option sales tax, and then we'll continue to collect that.
Well, I'm not looking for a balance at the end of the year. I'm looking for a balance as of June 1 or something. That I don't believe that we were to, because we haven't done the things we told the public we were gonna do, that we cannot exhaust that on June 1 or whenever we have to pay. I know we don't have to pay for projects till then. But if you were gonna use your bids today and look at what percentage of local option sales tax went in there, how much would be left in the sales tax fund today?
If we were to make payment on all these construction contracts?
Yes.
We have approximately 6 million right now.
Okay.
So we're estimating about 9 million that it's gonna cost, but when we do these construction contracts, we don't make payment until the work, we have all the certifications. So we won't be making those payments, initially, so we won't be exhausting it as the payments go around. But yeah, I guess as of today, if we had to make the contract payment for everything, then yeah, we would be in negative.
Sales tax would be negative.
As of today, but as we projecting to spend it, because this has got a completion date of this fall, that we will not be in the red.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but what I'm hearing you saying is that since it came in at 2.2 million, you're gonna have to figure out, you were gonna take X number of dollars of local option sales tax, you're gonna take X number of dollars of state aid, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to get to your engineer's estimate, right? But now you're 2.2 million under that, so
Yep.
now you've gotta refigure what you're going to distribute from each one of those funding sources. And local option sales tax will be reduced because, for example, you were gonna use 3 million, maybe you're only gonna use 2.5 now.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but,
Or one.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
But that has to be redone.
And so the projects were identified in the 5-year plans, which ones include a local option sales tax, which is identified in the resolution. So yeah, it results on a savings from our engineer's estimate.
Right.
And
But
we
you're
have the
gonna have
money.
to calculate with the funding sources because you're down 2.2 million, right? You can't just take it all from one, you're not gonna say, well, we saved $2.2 million on this, so therefore we're not gonna take 2.2 on local option
Okay.
sales tax. It's gotta come out of all the funding sources.
Yeah, so
Okay,
each
so-
project,
So how do we do this? So, we have a budget, we have an estimate of how much we need from local option, local road fund. But we don't actually transfer that budget amount. We wait till the end of the year and we measure up, okay, what were all the locally funded road projects that we did?
Yeah.
What was the actual cost of those? And that's the amount we transfer. So it's based upon what the actual cost of locally funded projects were and not necessarily the budget.
Okay.
So.
That helps.
Yep. Again, we do one transfer at the end of the year.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kapinski.
Mark, on your estimated budgets of 15 million, what were we using out of the local ops sales tax at those numbers?
I guess I didn't have that number prepared today. I can tell you which projects were being funded, and that's how we determine essentially based upon the bids as they come in and which projects can be funded with local option sales tax and what that total will be.
Mr. Chair, I'm just getting a little nervous because we have a lot of things that are in the works right now that could be happening in the future, and it's really important that we build that half-cent sales tax
Yep,
pot
absolutely.
fund.
All right, any other questions?
I have a question. Do you know when CASA 3 is gonna be redone?
CASA 3 from 1 to CASA 4, I think we have it slated as, let me just check here, 2026 we did. Now, we did try to apply for the federal money from the area planning organization, this thing called APO, and we did not get funding for that one. So I think we're still wanting to do it, but right now, we're trying to sort out the funding for that. But yeah, I mean, I think we definitely, I think it's, that we want to do that project. It's just a matter of when, I guess.
3 more years yet?
Yeah, 3 more years potentially, yeah.
Could be 5.
Yeah, there's a lot of roads, you know, just even, one of the contractors made the comment, all these roads that he looked at, put bids on, he said they're in pretty rough shape, so they definitely need it. And we know we have plenty of other roads that need it. So there's a great need out there, so.
Any other questions for Mark on this resolution?
Nope.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution to award a construction contract to a responsible bidder and authorize board chair to sign the construction contract when ready for signatures.
I'll second it. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right.
Nice job on those, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was good to see. So, I think next is one of the, either the gravel crushing or pavement marking, but I'll just go with one I have here, if that's okay. So every year we crush gravel in our Eisenschenk pit, the county-owned pit. And so we went out, for proposals again this year. Last year we did quotes, but we did proposals this year. We're planning on doing 30,000 yards of crushing in the Eisenschenk pits. Again, pleased to say that these bids were good. They're better than what we had received last year. So again, it's the same thing to consider of adopting the resolution and authorizing the board chair to sign the construction contract when ready.
All right.
So moved.
Pretty cut and dried, I thought, yeah.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion second to adopt that resolution. Any other discussion?
Are we adopting or awarding?
He has a resolution here.
Awarding.
Award the construction contract, it says for.
And authorize board chair to
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes.
should do it all in one motion.
Yep.
Okay. Okay with the motion and the second?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right, the last construction contract is the pavement markings. Every year we do roughly about 100 miles of road of striping. This one did not come in near our estimate. The reason is through 2 years ago, there was 3 main pavement striping contractors. Sir Lancelot bought out AAA, and we were informed recently that the one that we have used in the past was bought also out from by Sir Lancelot. My understanding, there are other contractors. I know one of them pulled the plans, but they're more traffic control contractors, so I don't know if this is too big a work or what. The prices are about 4 cents higher a linear foot than last year, and the price we got is essentially 13.8 cents a linear foot. How I did write the proposal was that we have that ability to decrease without changing the unit price, the quantity, based upon all the bids come out, since we have to be within a budget. I guess I haven't talked with Mark what his plan would be. I know the gravel crushing came in under, and our seasonal overlays, which is part of all our construction projects for paving this year, came under. But right now, yeah, our budget is about 110,000, and the total estimate came at 165,000. But again, we can decrease that, and we can work with that to get it overall within our budget. I don't know any, like I said, I don't know any other contractors and they had the opportunity to bid on it.
I assume, Mark, this is because it's a safety issue, it has to be done this year?
Correct, yeah, and we have a number of roads that need striping. Last year, I think most of our budget went to stripe kind of in Sauk Rapids, and then the board you did authorize to stripe some additional roads, but we didn't do near as many miles of road last year, so there's a lot of roads that are lacking this year that needs that striping. It is a safety concern.
Mr. Chair, it's gotta get done,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Does it all need to get done this year?
We can work through that and look at what roads, with Mark, I can look with the maintenance superintendent, and with Chris returning this next week. But, and I don't think by approving it doesn't mean that, we have to, do the full amount, either. We can work with them to downsize it if need be for our budget's sake.
Commissioner Kapinski?
Mr. Chair, I'm gonna take one out of your book here. Monty, where would this money come from?
Well, I was gonna ask Mark do you recall for us how much under the patch budget was, the patch bid versus the budget? Do you recall that one?
Yeah, that one, I think, I wanna say that was somewhere around 100,000 under.
And that covers it right there then.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's typically the case, you've got the total budget for maintenance to work with, some are over, some are under, it usually balances out, so this would cover that overage then, yep.
I look at it this way, if we kick it down the road, we're gonna have that much to do next year too, so.
Yeah.
I'll move for adopting resolution and award construction contract to the lowest responsible bidder, authorize board chair to sign construction contract when ready.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Well, I just think maybe, hopefully, we find other stripers that we can look at for going forward. There's gotta be more than one. I mean, I don't know if this is a large contract or not for them, maybe this is just peanuts at what they bid.
Yeah, you would hope with bigger prices, more prices now that they're putting on their
Yeah,
bids, that other contractors will step into the arena.
yeah.
I share your frustration with that. I was worried when I found out that they had bought out their only other competitor, it seemed.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried.
All right, so this kind of ties, I guess, I skipped with the other ones, but ties with our construction contract that was just awarded. Is to consider advancing our state aid balance to fund these 2023 construction projects. So every year we get construction state aid money. This last year was around 2.6 million, a little bit down from the previous year. But what we're discovering we're not gonna have enough funds to cover our projects for this year. One thing that state aid does allow is us to advance our balance. It's not an interest, kind of think of it as borrowing from ourselves from a future year. So we'd have less next year, but we would have it this year to do. We've done this twice, I think, since I've been with the county, and they were larger amounts. So in order to do so, the county board has to adopt this attached resolution, and putting together the numbers from our bids. That number would be $764,161.89 to advance for calendar year 2023.
Mark or Monty, since the Commissioner of Transportation has to approve this, has it ever been denied?
I can't recall if they've ever been denied, no.
We initially too also put in, they put a solicitation every year of who's planning on advancing and how much. It's not formal. And then they determined it was a significant amount of money that was out there, and it's a first come, first served basis, from my understanding. They still have the money, so I don't foresee this being a problem.
Commissioner Kapinski?
Mr. Chair, what does this do, Mark, for our 5-year road project and the projects in '24 that we're looking at using this money on?
Yeah, I was looking what we have slotted currently as it is in 2024. The only state aid projects we had going on was CASA 3 and CASA 5 in Gilman. Now there's another bucket of pool of money that we do get, it's state aid municipal, which we can use on that. But I think we only have, I wanna say, it's not even, I don't think it's even $1 million in there, and that project's that would cost us well over that. But factoring the two state aid construction balances, we would still be positive at the end of next year. So if we keep the 5-year plan set for 2024, we would have the balance to fund those projects. We'll have an advance.
Okay, good question.
Yeah, that was a very good question, Commissioner.
All right, what are your wishes?
Move to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
any other discussion? Motion and a second to approve the advancement of state aid funds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Mark, lease agreements.
All right, so this was discussed during my engineering update last week. So we have our CSAH 29 future alignment, a road right of way. I'll maybe bring this little map up on the screen, but again, that starts at our CSAH 1 and 29 intersection, and loops all the way to CSAH 3. And so this is not a road that exists there today, but where the county board's robustly going after funding to put this new alignment of roadway in. Part of it is the road right away again was purchased, and at the time it was, I think, discussed, the engineering staff was that they could continue to utilize the road right away, but we obviously have concerns that we want to protect our interests in that road right of way. And so that's what brought up the discussion of, well, we want to obviously do these leases and set an early notification letter. And so last board meeting, you wanted me to pull up some data just in terms of how much right of way that is. Some number of the property owners, some have changed since then. So, and it's kind of tough to decide who, they've changed, one side's one side's the other, so I'm not sure at the moment, like, who actually utilizes that road right away. But here's some names. We're looking at about just under 30 acres of road right away. I'm estimating it's tough to tell what's kind of pasture out there or if it's not even being used, but I'm kind of estimating about 21 acres is being farmed, and that might be in hay too, and then about approximately 5 acres in pasture. So these are kind of the previous owners that currently likely used. Again, probably not going to find that out until we send the letters out and have those discussions of who actually, which side, which parcel actually is really using it when they're two different parcels. But I did look up some, just try to figure out for maintaining that county road right away, what that would cost. We have kind of tried to estimate, I think, south of here, we actually, I think we're mowing at one point, I think for the city, a 30 or 40 acre piece. We estimated that was taken about, with driving to the property and mowing it down was about an acre an hour. So we're figuring that just our costs for a driver, a tractor, and a mower are about $119 an hour. Talking with the maintenance superintendent, he thought it would take approximately 5 days. So we're somewhere just to maintain it and cut it ourselves. We're talking of probably costing the county somewhere in that range of $119 an acre to $167 an acre to do that. I did look at rental rates, and we're somewhere in the range of $114 an acre, but maybe it's something to consider of our cost to maintain that road right away if we would not allow them to farm it. So it's just an item to bring up to talk about what rental rate are we thinking we want to go with. And I know there was some discussion on insurance, but how we want to handle the insurance side of things if we do let them rent the property.
Mr. Chair.
Shannon.
Mark, thank you for that information. I actually called both Marks, Mark Ebnett and Mark Beudel, to give us this information of what it would cost the county to take care of this. In my opinion, it cost us more, so at that point in time, we need to figure out of how we can make a rental or a lease agreement at zero, because the amount of cost that it's gonna take cost us to do this?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Heinen that the cost would be, as you just don't wanna leave it go. I mean, if and when we ever get to that, to the construction part, if we wouldn't do anything, you know how much extra that would cost to clean it up. So do we have to charge something? I mean, I imagine in order to be a binding lease, you gotta charge something. Whether it's $1 or whatever.
Michelle, I see you're on with us today. You have a comment?
I am. The statute does mention reasonable rent. So that is the standard that the county board would have to apply.
Okay, Michelle, reasonable rent. Being it would cost us more per year to take care of all of this, how could we play that into factor?
That would have to be your determination. But we do have to remember that people are utilizing county property and, you know, not everyone has an ability to do that. So that should also figure in.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Kapinski.
my concern here is if we put a lease out there, even at $50 an acre a year, that the landowners say, no, you take care of it for your $120 an acre, and then we're stuck. I don't think that they're gonna pay anything for it. They're gonna say, you guys deal with it.
Yeah, well, if you go back to the map, not necessarily, because some of this is gonna split some fairly nice fields in half, and you're not gonna wanna deal with that. We have another issue that's coming forth on the insurance that they have to provide. Some of these small property owners, they cannot afford the rider of 1.5 million because that will cost them roughly $1,000 to put that rider. If you're if they don't already have it on their farm, if they have, I know we got a couple large operators in there, they have that already on their farm. But some of these might not have that, and if they go for this 1.5, that's $1,000 a year on their insurance to get that 1.5 million extra insurance over the 300,000 to 500,000. They're gonna scream at us for doing that. I mean, I just called my insurance agent and, who happens to be my daughter, and she said, they'll never do that. She goes, they can't afford it. So somewhere's in there, I mean, we don't know what the acres are, we've seen what the acres are, but we don't know what the value of their property is that they would already have it on there. Some of them won't, because if you got a 40-acre farm and minimal equipment, you're not gonna have that extra rider on there cover the damages.
Mr.
I
Chair.
do believe we did discuss that at the last meeting, just making sure that they have adequate insurance instead of putting that 1.5 million
Okay.
into the agreement and then making sure that we were added as an additional insured.
As long as they got adequate, but we can't force them to take up the extra.
No.
Whatever it says in,
One of the things we're not looking at is what happens if, owner A chooses to take it, then B chooses not to take it, then C.
I know,
How are we gonna get to them in between to do our cleaning and upkeep if there's fields on both sides?
Well, the other thing we didn't talk about is you presented what it's gonna cost us to do it, but is that something we have time to do? I mean, you're taking 5 days.
Don't.
You're gonna add 5 days to the labor of the highway department to maintain this area. I have a hard time
Yeah,
believing they have 5 extra days.
take essentially our guys from maintaining our roads somewhere else.
Right. That,
Was it 5 days or $119 per acre?
Yeah, so he was estimating, Mark was estimating, our maintenance superintendent, was estimating approximately 5 days for one person, one tractor and mower, one person out there. And then we were figuring somewhere in that range of, cost, we know our cost per hour is about $119 an hour for our equipment and for our driver, our operator, I should say. And so we're somewhere in there. If you figure 5 days, that's where I came up with that $167 an acre.
And that would have to be done twice a year.
probably not, probably once. would be
Probably
sufficient.
once, you think? On a good wet year?
On
Commissioner
a
Pop?
normal year.
I'm still trying to figure out, Michelle, how can we incorporate this into an agreement so that the lease is zero? Being it would cost us more to maintain this than the landowner.
Yeah, that certainly can be a factor in the number that you choose. Probably needs to be at least $1.
Thank you for that information.
Yeah. Well, I look at it this way, if we charge $1 to all of them, we're saving 5,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schlangen?
I have some questions on wording, starting with number 8. It looks like you put down 2 sevens, and then nothing in between there, and then started with the 8. The last sentence of number 8 says, leasing shall be in default if leasing fails to the rent due and owing by the 5th of each month.
I seen that
So
too.
what is that? Fails to what with the,
Hey,
Fails to pay the rent due.
fails to pay the rent?
Yeah.
All right, and then on the next page, number 14, the third line down, it says lease shall not be affected thereby made that, it says mad that in lieu.
And this was kind of a rough draft, I guess, but I was trying to give you guys an idea what the lease would look like, yeah. So,
I will, take a look at that language and make sure we clean it up so that it's clear what the intent is.
And the last page, number 16, the first line says, shall completely bind and inure to the benefit of the heirs. Is that just a legal word?
It is.
Okay. That's it then.
All right, thank you.
All right, members, what do you want to do?
I would like to move forward with a $1 lease.
And I think though Michelle brings up, we want to make sure that we're tying that because of our cost.
Yes.
This is what we're gonna do.
I-
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Okay.
motion and a second,
Now I got it.
discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, I think we need to send a second letter with it stating that this is how we came up with this dollar lease. Right, Michelle? I mean, in my opinion, that's what I would like.
Yep, so I don't believe any letters have been sent. We were waiting for the board to kind of decide on that rental amount.
Right.
So what we will do is we'll just add in, this is the expectation for rent.
Yep.
And this is based off the figure, what a reasonable rent would be, but what the cost would be for the county to maintain that area. And I will also add some language into the draft of the lease agreement that reflects that that's the compromise.
Great, thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
What about the insurance issue? So Mark presents leases to, half a dozen landowners and some balk and say, can't do it. What then?
You're gonna have Bach.
What then?
Well,
Let
are you Michelle, when you say adequate in here, did you have a dollar amount? I'm sorry, I didn't remember, but what does adequate mean?
I think it depends. They should have the property insured. I'm not sure what a typical rental or insurance rate is for property that's agricultural. But, sometimes we just leave it loose to make sure that the property is insured.
Yep, and that we're listed.
Whatever adequately would be determined by the board. And then we would just make sure that we are an additional insured. So
Yes.
sufficient insurance to show that the property is insured.
So
Okay.
this sounds like perhaps a case by case. In other words, Mark presents lease, Farmer A says, no, I can only do this amount. Mark brings it back to you all, and then you make a decision on a case by case basis.
We're not dealing with that many
Potentially.
property owners.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
that's a potential, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner
I
Benton?
definitely can see this becoming a hang-up, Michelle. I think you might as well because of the additionally insured and being a county property. Because if they show a certificate, said, oh, I got insurance for my property, well, that's not the county property, so now they gotta add that to it. And there's gonna be some,
They gotta add, they'll have to get their insurer, their insurance company to add a rider. And I've had that with a couple of renters, and one I wouldn't do it because it wasn't feasible for me to do it. And he got all huffy, and I said, okay, find a different renter, because he wanted to be listed on my insurance.
Yep.
Because he wanted a rider that anybody that does activity, anybody that I hire to do activity on that property will be insured as well.
at the end of the day, we need insurance, cause somebody gets hurt out there, it's the county property, and we don't want to be holding that ticket.
I don't think you'll have a problem with the majority of them, but there'll be some small ones that you might have a problem with.
So are you gonna deal with it on a case by case?
Case by
Yes,
case basis, yeah.
adequate insurance, that's all we'll leave it at.
And hopefully,
Yep.
this will be a short-term option, because I think the county's plan is if funding comes in, to keep moving forward on that road.
All right, motion and a second.
So what's the rent going to be for
$1,
just $1 per acre?
yes.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking
That's what we've
about.
been talking about.
Okay.
Because it's gonna cost the county $119 per acre to maintain.
So, and they're gonna do it for $1,
They've been doing it for
They've been doing
nothing,
it for
right?
nothing so far.
right? Okay.
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Oh, that's fine. Any other discussion? Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Mark. Michelle, thank you.
Yep, thank you for that. Truly appreciate it.
All right, I guess we're just fine on our clock here to move into human services. So I'll turn that over to the Human Services Board Chair, Commissioner Heinen.
Wow, we'll now call the Human Services Board to order. Approve or amend the agenda. Bob, anything to add?
No changes.
Board,
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Thank you. Consent agenda, item number 1, 2, 3, and 4. What would you like to do with that?
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion between 1 and 4? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, motion carries. Next, Bob, consider approval. I'll let you talk about that.
All right,
Or,
the only item on here is, consider approval to send 3 public health staff and 1 commissioner to attend the NACCHO conference. And I have Jenny and Mariah, who would like to give just a brief update on what that would entail.
Good morning, Commissioners.
good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Of course, we're happy to be here. So following the passing of our updated tobacco ordinance last September, we have drawn interest from many public health professionals in the state and also nationwide. You may remember that late last fall, we were highlighted for our updated tobacco ordinance by the Truth Initiative, which is America's largest nonprofit public health organization dedicated to tobacco prevention and control. Then in December, Jenny Leeser and I were asked to present on our statewide commercial tobacco free point of sale call to share our process of our tobacco work with other local public health agencies also working on tobacco reduction strategies. After that presentation, the Minnesota Department of Health's tobacco policy planner asked us to submit an abstract to present at the National Association of County and City Health Officials annual conference, also known as NACCHO 360 Conference in Denver, Colorado. This conference draws thousands of attendees. We submitted an abstract back in January and received notification that we were selected to present a couple weeks ago.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
So basically what our presentation would entail would be just to explain what our process was to develop the ordinance, and then also highlighting the work that we did with you through our COW meetings to mold the ordinance into something that fits our community and also our community values, and then also highlighting the work that we did with all of the partners that we had throughout the process and engaging those that feel the effects of tobacco daily, whether it's personally or with their children or their students, and just to be able to share all of that information again at a national level with many local public health officials. And so we talked about it in the past that all of these local changes is what leads to bigger impacts and bigger changes. And so we're hoping that by presenting, we're able to help inform others to do the same and encourage them to do the same too.
Awesome, congratulations on
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
We do have a copy of our abstract if you'd like a copy of that as well.
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we're requesting for myself, Mariah, our supervisor, Jacqueline, and Commissioner Heinen to attend the NACCHO conference, and we will be using a variety of different funds, grants that we have, so we won't be using any county levy dollars for this.
Okay. Members, any questions? Commissioner Heinen, any comments?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, I'm already back into
I
my
knew
role.
you were gonna
Sorry.
do that.
You go right ahead.
Board, comments, questions?
Maybe some input on your end?
Actually, I was shocked, I was surprised. I thought this is huge for Benton County. You know, we got recognized in Washington in one of their newsletters. Now we're getting recognized nationwide at this national convention. Actually, I was probably more excited about it than these two ladies in front of us. It's a real honor.
They have to do the presenting.
I know, that's what's even, I really prefer that, because I don't think I could do it. You know.
Mr.
So-
Chair, I'll move approval to send Jenny and Mariah and Jacqueline and yourself to the conference coming up in July.
I will second that.
Okay, we got a motion, a second, just to be clear. I was asked to attend with them. So, it was not me pushing.
Just another comment. Thank you again, ladies. I know that this is a huge plus for the county, and thank you for all your hard work. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
So we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Can I have a question of you while you're here? With the contracts that we approved here, so you have, did you have a nurse at the schools and then who does evaluations and then somebody does counseling, or how does that work?
Oh, Bob, are you talking about the Lutheran Social Services stuff?
Right, the three that we passed in the consent agenda.
Let me just dig that one out here real quick.
Next time, bring it up. Next time, bring it up.
Earlier?
Under the consent. If you want to pull it and ask questions, you bring it under the, you pull it from the consent and ask questions. Right now, I legally don't have to let you do this, just so you know that. But I will do it. This is the last time, though. If you've got a question, you pull it under that consent item. Okay, which one?
Basically, all of them they're all dealing with, counseling with students in the schools and families. And then, also the first one with the early intervention program.
So let me just give an overall update. We have a children's mental health collaborative. And what what they do is we use those funds to contract with different entities to go into the school and provide services, mental health services. And typically that's a lot of what Human Services does. We don't actually do the work, we contract with other people to do those services. So in one, we have contracted with Lutheran Social Services to work in the Sauk Rapids School. In the second one, we have contracted the Lighthouse Child and Family Services for the Foley schools. And in the third one, that's a contract between Stearns Benton Education District Early Intervention Program, and they will provide services as well. So I think that's what we do, and those are Children's Mental Health Collaborative funds.
So, and you work with those organizations?
what we do is we pay them money
Client?
to, and they will go in and provide therapeutic services for the students.
These have been ongoing contracts too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, anything else in front of the board today?
No.
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn at 10:39 and I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you, Commissioner Heinen. Bob, looks like you're up right away on our regular agenda here, considering the request to submit collections officer position for review at David Drown Associates.
Give me a second. to-
Yep, no problem.
All right. As you know, the county policy is that from January to May is a period of time when if people feel that they want to have their position, if there's been changes to their position that of significance, they would bring it to me and they would explain to me what the changes and the differences in their position are. And at that point in time, I would make the decision to bring it before the board and ask the board, based on those changes, if they warranted those, if they were, I always use the figure of 30 to 50% increase in duties. Then at that point in time, I don't try to make a judgment on it or not. I just simply say that that's the process is to bring it before the board and the board to approve, sending it to DDA, and they make those determinations. The threshold that I meet is that I see significant change in those positions, in this position. So I bring it before you, our collections person. As you can see, she has had some significant changes to her job, determination of out-of-home placement fees, determine CD direct access Rule 25 eligibility, lead on revenue recapture audits, main contact for Forte online payments, SSTS time study coordinator, and human services contract coordinator. One of the things that the top 5 of these were re-delegation of duties within human services, and the 6th item was to free up 40% of Emily Keel's position in HR. We're taking back the contract coordination and we're giving it to Tiffany, and that frees up Emily to do HR duties. So those are the changes. And you may ask me why, how did she all of a sudden come across all this time to do these extra things? One of the things Tiffany undertook when she took the job a few years ago was that we needed to have some type of a written collections manual. Because we've had multiple people rolling through this and the processes were never written so that somebody could actually follow them. So she undertook that, so it took her about 3 years to write this whole policy. She's done now, and what it amounts to now is we just need to update it periodically. We went to a EDMS system, which helped out tremendously, just to be able to have everything electronic versus papers shuffling. The third item is we switched from an IBM program to RPM and QuickBooks, and the newer programs allowed us to be much more efficient. And then the other thing is that she doesn't, it's been one of the things in the past is that they have helped with efforts as far as DHS goes. They get in on these different county, state committees, and she just hasn't gotten into those. She prefers not to go to those, and they're really a situation where we have really challenged people to say, do you need to be part of all these committees that are out there? And if you need to be, that's fine. And she just hasn't felt that they were of value. So anyway, those are the things that have been freed up, and we've supplanted those with these other positions, and mainly the human services contract coordinator, which was 40% of Emily's job. So I would ask that you allow me to submit this to DDA and allow them to look at the position and give us their take.
Monty, what's DDA charge for this reevaluation, roughly?
About $250.
Okay. And I know we've done this in the past. We've done this in the past with other employees.
It has occurred periodically, yes.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, what is the consequences when the DDA comes back and we have to upgrade or, I mean,
Well, per the policy then is the employee would receive the higher pay grade retroactive to today. That's how the policy is written. So they'd be placed on whatever step of the new grade results in an increase over where they are now. So
So
of
this-
course, that varies a lot.
this
but-
was not part of when we did the comp and class study before, this was not part of that when it was done?
Well, I guess in a sense, it's a separate process, and I think the idea here is that as time passes after you've done your last study, position duties may change. So you want to reflect that, and they should be substantial, because as you know, we just did a study 2 years ago.
Right.
So
That's where I have some problem with it. We just did a study
and I would say, we should see, because we just did a study 2 years ago, we should see very few of these.
Right.
For some period of time. Yeah, very few. And, I did ask Johanna to review this with Bob and meet with Bob, discuss it, and really narrow it down to what had generally changed about the position. And I think that's what Bob presented to you today.
I would say that as well, that was 2 years ago that the comp class study was done, but it was 3 years ago when this paperwork submitted in this process was completed.
Spring, summer 20.
I just don't want to set a precedent that every time somebody gets a class job change or we alter their work a little bit, that they come back before us for.
Mr. Chair, that's an important point, because it can't be simply, you're doing more of essentially the same. Right. It needs to be responsibilities that have significantly more complexity, more responsibility, more risk. Those are the factors that Tessa would look at in an evaluation. So there's really no guarantee it's going to get upgraded.
Right.
It's based upon her judgment.
But it's spending money to look at upgrading it, and
I think that's the determination, is whether or not what Bob's presented is enough of a change to warrant the request.
I guess I would say that the sixth item, as I said, was 40% of Emily's job. And right now, this collections position is a grade 4, which 3 is the bottom, 4 is the next step. So if you ask somebody to manage all of our contracts across human services and be able to upgrade them, make sure that they get submitted and so forth, I think that alone is a situation where we're asking her to do above 4 level work. So that's the crux of what
Have you had a conversation with the employee that if the DDA comes back and there's no movement, they understand that? I mean, like Monty said, this may or may not be.
I think no guarantees.
Yes, okay.
Correct.
Well, Mr. Chair, as you know, you being on the Human Services Board Chair last year, you know how many contracts you sign and how many contracts that actually go through, which is quite a few, more than what anyone
And the complexity that they're now coming electronically as well.
They are.
And the confusion, yes.
Which I appreciate personally, but that's fine.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kapinski.
I hear exactly what Commissioner Heinen is saying, and I also echo what Commissioner Pop is saying. We don't want to make this a, everyday standard coming in, but at the end of the day, we also better look at keeping these updated and, on this class and comp and all these evaluations, so we don't have these every day. As people know, counties and any government has turnover, and it's due to people going to the public sector, and we want to make sure we keep them. So I think it's worth taking a look at. There is a lot of contracts, and we just heard when Peggy, during Peggy's retirement, you guys have never been in the red, correct?
And furthermore, we have 0 applicants after 3 months of searching.
Yeah, so I'm gonna move that we send it to DDA and have them take another look.
And I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to move it on to DDA. Is there any other discussion?
I do share the same opinion of both Commissioner Kapinski and Commissioner Pop.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion's carried.
can I just mention is, I had a conversation with Tessa a few days ago. And at some point, I'm gonna arrange for her to address you all, because I know
That'd be a good thing.
with newer board members, you may have not necessarily heard from her. And she gave me a list of, 15 cities and counties that are using their maintenance system. So we're gonna contact some of those and learn about their experiences and pros and cons and so on.
Good.
But I want at some point bring her back and visit
Right.
with you all and kind
No,
of
that-
reintroduce the concept.
Yep.
They're gonna do the same thing our management team do.
Okay.
So, yep.
And that would be, that would be good if it came from us and not from the employee coming
Correct.
forward. I just don't like the employee having the opportunity to, every time they get a little more work or a little job description change, they're gonna be before us to have a change in pay scale. It just doesn't work.
Mr. Chair, we've also discussed that about doing a maintenance program in the past too.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know,
All right,
So-
we're gonna move on. Brian?
Brian next.
Yep, thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Brian
Thanks.
has a handout for you.
Thank you, Monty.
Yep, there you go. You can have one. Thanks.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
I was just asked to do a quick presentation here on the apartment commercial valuation changes over the last 3 years. So what I just have for you is the lines in the very left side. I did countywide apartments. That includes the apartments that are in the city of St. Cloud that are in Benton County. I did an apartments without the city of St. Cloud, and then commercial both ways as well. So as you know, we follow the market. We look at sales for the 23 assessment from October 1st of 2021 through September 30th of 2022. We look at all of the market data that's out there, and we set our values accordingly. We are supposed to be valuing properties at 100% of market value. The state says that we need to be between 90 and 105% for our median ratio. So if you look in the first column, countywide apartments, for 2023, we did go up countywide approximately 16.1%. We had 9 apartment sales and our median ratio was 94.3%. Without the city of St. Cloud, we went up about 11.1%. So this year, the city of St. Cloud went up a little bit more on apartments than we did in the county side. So they do their own assessing there. 5 sales and we're at 93.6. You can follow those through. Last year, we had significant increases in the 22 assessment for taxes payable 23. Countywide apartment was 21.6% on 11 sales, and the median ratio was actually at 85.8. So it was actually underneath the state mandated range. How can that happen? Well, there are some factors where we looked at. St. Cloud only had 5 sales. So the state says you have to have 6 sales minimum to set a market, so there is some little bit of flexibility there. In Benton County side, without St. Cloud, we had 6 sales, we went up approximately 28.8%, and we were at 90.5, so we were barely hitting that mark. Again, and you can look through 2021, I probably don't need to necessarily read through it. And then again, on the countywide commercial, this year, 23 assessment, countywide commercial went up approximately 9.5%, and our median ratio was at 95.8. Taking St. Cloud out of the mix, we were at 10.2% increase in estimated market values, and we're at a 101.1. So again, all of our ratios are between 90 and 105% where they need to be, and we will continue to look at sales from October of 2022 through September of 2023. And if those sales plateau out or drop or raise, we will just follow whatever the market is doing.
Brian, quick question on the median ratio percent again on 2022 for countywide apartments, so 85.8. So the state says you need to be between 90 and 105.
Correct.
You're not. What happened?
So what could happen, in this case, this is when I was coming in to the county, the countywide, our assessment did hit 90.5. Technically, there were 5 sales in the city limits of St. Cloud. They didn't have 6, so they probably, depending upon if there was a trend over a 5-year period, they could have gotten a 5% increase from the state board saying you didn't quite hit it.
Okay.
We're gonna give you a 5% increase. What happens is we have our local board meetings, we have the county board or the special board of equalization, and then the state board meets with all of the property tax compliance officers saying, Brian didn't meet his ratio in this, and the state will just give us a state board increase of 5%, 10%, whatever that number is. And there is no appeal process. We just tack that on afterwards and it becomes more work for our office as well. But, you know, we do want to be between 90 and 105 on all of our ratios as long as.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
Mr. Chair, yep, thank you, Brian, for bringing this information to us. I just wanted to put it on the record because as all of us know, we've been getting some emails about all of this stuff. So I do appreciate you explaining everything for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, just a clarification, we can't deviate from this other than the 90 to 105.
Right.
We can't just say 75% is what we're gonna go with.
Correct. The state requires we're between 90 and 105.
Yeah. I would assume though, with that said, if you came in with 98%, we could say we're gonna have it at 92.
Yeah.
The local board cannot change a class. The special board could actually lower an entire class. It just is they can't lower it more than 1% of the market value of the county.
Okay,
So
but it can
there
change.
there is some things that could be, you know, changed at a special board meeting, but then again, yes, it's additional
1%.
work, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Brian, I hate to put additional stuff on you, but, is there any way you could just kind of do just like a little brochure, a little page that we could hand out to to apartment owners and stuff like that? Because I think the misconception is that we're setting all of this and it's our county, that this is statewide, this is dictated from way above us, like a lot of things are.
Right.
And then sent down. I just want to make sure that we're clear and transparent with everybody that we're not doing this. And then if they are over that threshold, we can only go down at the special board, a certain amount.
1%.
So we don't have the luxury of taking it from 98 down to 90.
Correct, yeah, and also I would also say that every year we mail out surveys and rent surveys to the apartment owners. So we actually mailed 2 last year. One was out just before I started, then we sent a second survey. We do want to send out rent surveys so that we know what are the market rents, what are the vacancies. That's all private data back to us, so we don't always get those rent surveys back, but that could be somewhere where we could maybe submit a small write-up or something and include that in a rent survey. But once we get all those rent surveys back, we do try to compile that data and we do talk with surrounding areas, you know, what are rents, what are vacancies, what is the cap rate, and we do come up with those values. And if any of the apartment owners do have questions, you know, they can certainly get a hold of us and you know, normally we just ask for their financials and we kind of look through them and we'll work with them. If there is an apartment building or, you know, maybe, you know, that we need to look at or address differently, but we can always do that throughout the year. Once our value notices do go out, then we're kind of set with our values until those board meetings are done.
I think to Commissioner Kapinski's point of clarification is it's not the county board that's setting the sales ratios and the median,
Correct.
and the medians on this. I mean, are we responsible for the levy? Absolutely. But the other items are out of our hands.
Correct. The estimated market value is just set by what the market is.
Right.
What is the real estate market? And so, yes, that is out of your hands.
Mr. Chair, so just one more clarification, just so everybody's open and understanding. This really goes by the apartment owners.
Yep.
That sell their properties to somebody else, and if they overpay in Benton County versus Stearns County, that's what dictates the median. Let's just say if we have five sales in.
Yeah, correct. So, I mean, like last year, or for the 23 assessment, we had 5 sales of apartment buildings, ranging from a 5-unit building built in 1967 at a 71,000 a unit, and we had a 2018 apartment complex that was 70 units that sold for 10.375 million, 148,000 per unit. So we look at what are they selling for, and that's how we value them.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yep, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you did.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner meeting updates. Who'd like to start? I'll start. Actually, it was a little slower for once. Of course, as Mark talked about, it was good to be at the bid opening and see bids come in at 2.2 million under the
Here's update, that's a huge plus. I believe 4 of us were at the St. Cloud Airport event with Senators Klobuchar and Smith in their presentation of, I believe it was $495,000 to the airport. So that was a great press conference for that. Commissioner Kapinski and I did attend a broad, along with Monty, virtual meeting for the Foley to St. Cloud Fiber project, which is still in the works, and we continue to, at this point, have meetings every few weeks. I think we're getting some headway on that, so that's a plus. Of course, I believe there was 3 of us at the Highway 23 annual meeting up in Mora, well attended. Got a lot of good information. The keynote speaker was Congressman Stauber, and he did a great job presenting at that meeting. And then, of course, we had our GLT cow yesterday, so that's all I had.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What I had is I had the airport that I was there. Actually, I had some great discussions with Senator Smith's representatives about our raise grant and that, so very interesting information. We also had a Zoom meeting with one of Congressman Emmer's representatives last week too, Jared, Commissioner Kapinski and Monty. I also had Career Solutions. We're looking for a new auditor. 3rd one in 3 years. We keep getting dropped. I have no idea. Well, it's because everything's based off of grants. So all of our stuff is all grant based, and not too many people do that. And just yesterday, the cow. So that's it.
Commissioner Schlangen, you ready over there?
I was able to get to the GSDC spring meeting for a little bit of it. And Patty Garland's now the president for that. The RSVP, and they have their 50th anniversary coming up next month. And Career Solutions and the cow.
Okay. Mr. Pop?
And the Highway 23.
Yeah, I didn't have much. I did meet on Tuesday with, I was invited to Congressman Emmer's at the St. Cloud VOTEC school. Started out to talk about agriculture policies for this year, and it ended up on a lot of people. There was Commissioner from Stearns County there, and the administrator from Sherburne County, and it got from agriculture to county needs and stuff like that. Then got to have a long conversation with Dorothy Clark and Blake Paulson, because they were the ones coordinated it. I think we got some in there to where we can maybe get something out of these people, for what we do. And then, of course, we had the Highway 23. I was impressed how many people showed up. I thought this was gonna be zilch at, I mean, you look at Commissioner Luke Johnson, he drove all the way from Pipestone. Holy man.
He did come up the night before, though.
Oh, he did. He likes to come up the night before on everything now.
Well, he used to. He's
Yeah,
5 hours away.
yeah. I mean, that was well attended for.
Very well attended.
I mean, I guess I expected to be so light compared to other annual meetings that we had, so that was good. And that was about all that I had,
Okay, Commissioner Kapinski. Okay,
I was not able to make the Highway 23, so I appreciate you guys going and checking that out. It is a great group, and I think it's being very well attended, like Commissioner Pop said, and there's traction there. So with that, I did go to the ATP 3 as the rep for APO. Obviously, there's not a ton in there for Benton County other than road Rice to that's more of the 7 West portion.
Number 2?
The number 2. So there wasn't a ton there for us on that side of things. I attended virtually the MICA, but I ended up getting pulled away in between it, so.
Thanks for doing that. I couldn't even get away. I was
I'm
under a bobcat.
I bet there was only 10 people, 12 people on there.
Okay.
So, the next one is, we did have our meeting with, Emmer's office on the 29 extension. I think that went very well. St. Cloud Foley to Fiber we had.
And then I had the APO meeting, that went very well, I think. They did a 20-year, MinDOT did a 20-year road project, estimate at like $30.1 billion. And how they're gonna come up with it. And then right before that, they did a electric vehicle, presentation. And coincidentally, these people are going together to do all these presentations for all the transportation organizations. And one of the things that keeps coming up is, if all these electric vehicles are going, who's paying the gas tax and for our roads and bridges to pay for this 30.1 million or $31 billion over 20 years? And that's just to maintain, so we got into that. And then, right at the end of the presentation, they had brought up like $230 million of state, local match for raise grants. So that kind of went right in here, and I started asking some questions and leading some people down the road, and basically, I found out that them raise grants are only for MinDOT projects. And I said, well, actually, that works out really well for us, because you're directing off of 23 and 10, you're directing all of your traffic on our road that's not a MinDOT road, but it's a major issue that we got a raise grant on. And apparently, I'm one of the only ones that ever brought that up, so we're continuing I said, this works out good, because in the timeline of what us getting it done is, kind of falls in the timeline of that whole construction project. So there will be continued conversation on that, so, I asked them for $4 million of that $280 million local match.
There you go.
So,
That would do it, wouldn't it?
yeah, that's all I have.
In case you were wondering, they did give me my new Highway 23
They did.
Coalition shirts,
They
since
did.
you stole mine and spilled cheese all over it.
Actually, you got the cheese one, I got the new one.
I don't know.
Just
They
kidding.
cleaned mine pretty well and had it pressed, so. All right, anything else, updates? All right, any comments by commissioners, concerns? Monty, committee of the whole.
Two to mention, of course, put into the record the Monday, April 10th, 12 noon, grant announcement at St. Cloud Airport, attended by Senator Klobuchar, Senator Smith. Put that on the record.
Yep.
The only thing that's new is the May 8th, 8:30 a.m., your next meeting with GLT, and Jessica from Northland Securities will be here. That's May 8th.
So she's
at
coming for the
8:30.
cow?
Excuse me?
She's coming for the cow.
She will be here in person.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
All right, is that it?
That's it.
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. We are adjourned at 11:06.
Well, that turned into a long meeting.